One day, your heart will beat for the very last time. And in that quiet moment, something extraordinary begins. Your body, the same body that carried you your entire life, starts an astonishing transformation, unfolding step by step, minute by minute, hour by hour. Most of it follows a precise and predictable schedule that scientists understand in remarkable detail. It's strange, it's surprising, and parts of it are genuinely beautiful. This isn't meant to frighten you. It's one of the most natural processes in the universe, and almost nobody understands what actually happens. So, gently and curiously, what really happens to your body after you die? The very first thing to happen is silence. With the heart stopped, blood no longer carries oxygen, and your cells, all 30 trillion of them, begin to run out of fuel. Your brain is the most demanding organ of all, and its cells start to shut down within just a few minutes. But here is something genuinely touching that scientists only recently discovered. Hearing may be one of the very last things to fade. Studies of dying patients found that the brain can still register sound even after a person stops responding. So in those final moments, a familiar voice or a few kind words really might be the last thing a person ever experiences. Meanwhile, the skin loses its warm flush and turns pale as blood drains from the smallest vessels near the surface. Over the next several hours, two famous changes take place. First, the body slowly cools to match the room around it, losing a little under 1 degree Celsius every hour. This steady cooling is so reliable that investigators can use it to estimate the time of death. Second, the muscles begin to stiffen. This is called rigor mortis, and it happens because the muscles run out of the tiny molecule that lets them relax. Starting in the eyelids and jaw, the stiffness spreads through the whole body over several hours, holds firm for a day or so, and then gradually fades away again as the tissues soften. At the same time, gravity quietly pulls the settled blood downward, leaving a purple shadow on whichever side of the body is resting lowest. Now for one of the most surprising discoveries of all. You might assume that the moment you die, every part of you simply switches off. But that's not quite true. In a remarkable study, scientists found that hundreds of genes actually become more active after death, ramping up, not shutting down, for hours and even days afterward. Many of them are genes involved in healing, stress, and development, almost as if the body's cells don't yet realize the whole has stopped and keep trying to do their jobs. It's a strange and humbling thought. In a very real, biological sense, parts of you carry on working for a while, long after your final heartbeat. After about a day, the next stage quietly begins, and its name is a little unsettling: self-digestion or autolysis. Here's what that means. Every one of your cells is packed with powerful enzymes, tiny biological tools that, in life, are kept safely locked away. But once the cells run out of oxygen and energy, those tools break free. And with nothing left to control them, they start to gently break down the very cells that contain them. It begins in the organs richest in enzymes, and slowly the body starts to soften and change from the inside out. There's no pain and no awareness. It's simply chemistry, quietly doing what chemistry does, returning complex tissues back into simpler building blocks. And now your body welcomes its busiest visitors of all, though really, they were inside you the whole time. Your gut is home to trillions of bacteria that spent your entire life helping you digest food and stay healthy. After death, with your immune system switched off, these same microbes are suddenly free to spread. They multiply rapidly and begin to feed, and as they do, they release gases, including methane and the wonderfully named rotten egg gas. These gases build up and cause the body to swell during a stage simply called bloat. They also produce two molecules with fittingly dramatic names, putrescine and cadaverine, which are responsible for the powerful smell of decay. The very life inside you becomes the engine of your return. Now let's clear up the most famous myth of all. The creepy idea that your hair and fingernails keep growing after you die. You've probably heard it, and it is completely false. Growing hair and nails requires fresh glucose and a whole cascade of living, working cells, and all of that stops the moment the body does. So what's really going on in those eerie stories? It's an illusion. As the body loses moisture, the skin dries out and slowly retracts, pulling back from the base of the nails and the roots of the hair. That shrinking skin reveals more of the nail and hair that was already there, making them look longer. Nothing is growing at all. It just looks that way. At this point, the natural world arrives to help. Within minutes of death, certain flies can detect a body from a great distance and arrive to lay their eggs. Soon, a whole community of insects gets to work, each species arriving in a predictable order, like guests at a scheduled event. This is so reliable that forensic scientists actually study these insects to pinpoint when a person died, a field called forensic entomology. Together with the bacteria, this crew carries the body through active decay, when soft tissues break down most rapidly. Over weeks and months, depending on the climate, the process slowly continues until only the sturdiest parts remain, the bones. It can look grim, but in nature, this is simply efficient, essential recycling. But this is not really an ending. It's a handover. As a body breaks down, it releases a rich burst of nutrients into the soil beneath it. Scientists have found that the ground around a decomposing body becomes a vibrant little island of life, where plants grow greener and an entire ecosystem flourishes. In other words, what leaves one body becomes the fuel for countless others. And humans are now embracing this idea on purpose. A growing number of places have legalized human composting, which gently transforms a body into clean, fertile soil that loved ones can use to grow a tree or a garden. From the carbon in your bones to the water in your cells, every single part of you is borrowed from the earth. And in the end, it all goes back, ready to become something new. So, what happens to your body after you die? It cools, it stiffens, and then, guided by your own cells, your own bacteria, and the patient work of nature, it is gently taken apart and returned, atom by atom, to the world it came from. The carbon, the water, the minerals, all of it gets recycled into new plants, new creatures, new life. In a strange and beautiful way, nothing about you is ever truly lost. It simply becomes part of everything else. Death, it turns out, isn't a full stop. It's a comma in a much longer story. If this gave you a new way to look at life, hit like and subscribe. There's a fascinating new question every week. And I'll see you in the next one.